This is an 8-iron, and it's a dead shank. Wow. Way right.
Oh,
Takes a hop
shank.
off the paddle.
You got to be kidding me. Very tough pitch shot right here. You got to hit it into the hill. One hop up and bite, and it's in.
Kind of like that.
Well, I would like to welcome a 13-time PGA Tour winner, Open Championship winner as well at Troon 1989, Ryder Cups, President's Cups. This player has seen it all. Mr. Mark Calcavecchia, again on the Sub 70 podcast. Thanks, Calc, for coming on and doing our annual start of the golf season conversation.
Absolutely, Jason. Anytime. I always enjoy talking to you.
Well, health updates. Unfortunately, both knees are done.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? Like that, you had a hell of a run there for a while between some injuries and some stuff that really takes some time to recover from at the level you're playing at, or want to play at, I should say.
Yeah, the last few years have been pretty tough with the spinal fusion in 2021, and then last year had both knees replaced, but. They're both feeling pretty good. Little, nagging things that us old guys have. I'll be 64 in a few months, and I think I got gout in my big toe. It kind of hurts on occasion. Every now and then, my thumb hurts like hell. Who knows? But all in all, though, pretty good. I've been playing pretty decent at home, and. Only played one tournament so far this year in Naples, and that was a 2-rounder. We got rained out, and I hit it fine, but made no putts. I just couldn't read the green. So it was encouraging, and looking forward to getting out to Tucson next week.
Can you still put, with the injuries and stuff, and like I said, I'm guessing if you take any guy who played the tour as long as you did, who's 60 plus, it just adds up, right? It's the body's not meant to swing a golf club that hard for that long.
Right.
Can you still get enough work in practice-wise where now that you're healthier, like does it feel like that part of your game is coming around too? Because when you're injured, you can't do it. You can't prep the way you need to prep. Does that feel like it's getting there a little bit for you, being able to put that time in?
As far as actually practice, not really. I can spend 45 minutes to an hour at the chipping green or, practice bunker. After about 20 minutes of putting, my back hurts. But I can play. I've been playing a decent amount in the last few months, really, at home in Florida. And, and playing's fine, hopping in a cart and play playing. And my whole career, I've kind of always liked to play practice anyway. So that works out good for me. But as far as spending time on the range, I honestly can't probably hit more than about 50 balls at a time anymore before I'm just wiped out.
But you didn't, like you said, in your prime, you didn't do that much anyway. Like if your game was on, you didn't mess with it too much, right? Like if it was working, you wouldn't sit out there for 3 hours pounding 7-irons for no reason.
Well, right. I did when I was younger, when I first started working with Costas in the 80s and Butch Harmon in the 90s. You'd hit so many balls where your hands, were just blistered up, terribly. But not anymore. And again, you're right, though. I kind of always did like to play practice. Like even when I went out by myself back in the early days at Bear Lakes, or when I went down to Eagle Trace in the middle 80s. I'd rather play 18 holes, 2 balls a hole, which is like playing 36 holes, which is a lot of golf. Take a break and then, maybe hit 30 or 40 balls in the range, some bunker shots and chips, and call it a day, and I'd be done by noon. So that was kind of the way I always liked to do it my whole career.
So with the limited time, what are you sort of focusing on? You can't, like I said, you can't beat 1,000 balls a day anymore. Like what sort of, is it short game? Is it, with that limited practice, what are you really trying to focus in on?
Short game more than anything else. Because I can only fly at about 245 yards, maybe 250 if I've got a slight help of wind. So, my distance isn't great. But if I can get some roll, these new Callaway drivers, they don't have a whole lot of spin on them. So if I can get dry conditions, I'll be okay and get it out there. But, the main thing is short game. and it's, in Naples it was streaky. I hit some amazing chips and a couple of really good bunker shots, and then the next bunker shot I just dead chunk. So it was a kind of a mixture, or like a chip. The second round on Saturday, I was right in front of the 17th green with the easiest chip I've ever seen, and I chipped it about 4 feet. Granted, it was into the green a little bit, but still, stuff like that I've got to, I've got to get better at, and just make some putts. I really didn't make much putt wise in the 2 rounds we played in Naples. So, but like I said, it's only been 2 rounds for the year so far.
Yeah.
So a long way to go.
Is there something to be said about, I mean to interrupt you there, but like getting in a tournament flow where if you do play 3 weeks in a row or 3 out of 4, does that then kind of come back to you a little bit of that, okay, this isn't golf at the club with the guys on Saturday, this is real golf, it's professional golf, but then that everything starts to tighten up, focus, short game, once you get a little bit of that rhythm of professional golf back. 'Cause it's been a while for you to really kind of get in that groove at it, imagine from the, like I said, from the injuries and the time off.
Yeah, you're right, 100%. I'm kind of actually looking forward to that too, because that's what I haven't done in the last 2 years. I've only played 8 tournaments, I think, in 2 years. So it'll be nice to play 3 out of 4 weeks, and then or 3 weeks in a row in May or whatever, 4 weeks in a row, and get something going, get a little bit of confidence rolling, and just it just kind of runs into each other, when you hit chips every day and bunker shots and shots and whatnot. You can kind of get a little confidence and a little bit of an idea of what you're doing out there for sure.
Any changes to the Champions Tour with everything going on in golf and, trying to make it a little bit more interactive if you take what Liv's doing and the tour's making some change and stuff? Is there anything on the Champions Tour that you guys are seeing or talking about or hearing as everything is kind of moving fast forward? It's kind of who knows which direction it's all going, but are you guys working on anything that you think is kind of interesting or cool for the fans that, follow you guys on the Champions Tour this season, or other changes you'd maybe like to see?
Well, I've kind of been trying to find out, this new equity program thing. I think there's quite a few of us trying to figure out if we're going to find a check in the mailbox one day. But we'll see. Other than that, our tour is pretty secure. It's not a whole lot changes in terms of what's going on out there. Most of our tournaments are in the same places, the same time of year, and which is fine. It's sometimes the rules change, unbeknownst to me. They like to do that to you. Oh, here's a new rule with eligibility or this or that. But other than that, it's pretty much the same deal.
Which for people who, I love going out to Champions Tour events, and in the sense that you can get closer to the players. You can watch how you guys play, right? It is a little, I'd say it's more intimate setting. It's fun. Like, you can see you, John Daly, David Duvall, pick whoever it is. Like, how do you guys go about picking apart the golf course and taking course management, all of it? You can really see it up close. I think that's a part a lot of people could learn from. Go follow you for 9 holes and see how you go about your business. That's the cool part about the Champions Tour. I think that you can see some great players and some great golf, but you can see it up close.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% correct. And it's been like that since day one, since I got out there 13 years ago. Obviously our crowds aren't as big. Some places we get really big crowds, but you can get closer. You can ask us questions. I think sometimes you get out there on the PGA Tour and some of the fans are afraid to get anywhere near anybody, and for the fear of getting yelled at. That won't happen for tour. I've answered hundreds of questions just right on the tee, or like before I teed off, or I say, "Hey, Mark, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure. What's up?" It's that's kind of the way it is out there with us, and again, it's not the craziness of the PGA Tour, and we're glad it's not. We don't want it that way, but yet, when the fans come out to watch us, they recognize almost all of our names, and even though we're getting up there in age, there's still a lot of great golf being played on the Champions Tour, and you can learn a lot and find out a lot by going out to watch our tournaments.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's and I think you can take a little bit away from it too. Of not all the golf balls are carrying 305 yards, and it's a little bit more realistic for somebody like me if I watched you play of how you do it. Right, because the guys anymore on the regular tour, I would call it that game is farther away from a good amateur low handicap golfer as it's ever been, let alone the 15 handicap. Right, it's a different beast. So you go watch an LPGA tour event or anything like that where it's more like distance I hit a golf ball. It's like, oh, okay,
right.
I see how they're doing this. Yeah, and you can gain a lot from watching the best in the world do it. I think it's a cool idea of watching a pro and see what you can gain out of it.
Exactly. And yeah, when you do go out to tour events, and I play a decent amount at home with Eric Cole and Nick Hardy and Brandon Matthews and some of these other guys that just, Eric's average distance-wise, but he only weighs about 130 pounds. But, those other guys just absolutely blister it. And I never get tired of watching it. I'm like, holy moly, how far did you just hit that one? But when you go out to watch us play, or even the ladies, people, I'm sure they say, well, I think I could probably hit it that far, or that looks like my drive, just kind of a low, skanky fade out there, So, I think it's much more relatable to the average person for sure. What the tour guys do is incredible, but it's not the way most of us play golf, that's for sure.
Well, you guys still hit it way farther than the average guy playing golf out there. Don't call it 288-yard rolled out fade. It's
right.
Not dog shit. You're still moving it pretty good, Cal. But the way you guys don't play bomb and gouge and try to hit as far as you can that's the part where I think it differs, right? I think if you get some guys watching TV and going, well, they have 183 mile an hour ball speed. They're that strong, so I'm just going to hit as far as I can and gouge. Like that won't work for a good amateur player. You have to play like you guys do.
Well, we don't have that extra gear.
Right.
We pretty much swing at the way we swing at it. You can't just all of a sudden walk up there and say, okay, I'm going to throw an extra 5 mile an hour club head speed into this drive.
Right.
I don't have that. And the tour guys do. They do have that extra gear. Their normal gear is massively long, but they do have an extra gear. But we're just, we hit it the way we hit it, and that's about it. There's really, I think you mentioned Duval earlier. I played with him last year in a tournament, and all of a sudden when he decided he wanted to hit one, there was a difference there. But now I think he's more worried about trying to keep it on the course because he hits far enough the way it is. But yeah, most of us, there's no extra gear at our age.
And fairways and greens still give you plenty of chances. That's just kind of what I always watch, from playing quite a bit with TA3. He still hits it pretty good, but he gives himself a lot of chances, right?
Yep.
Smart, solid golf, and that's what you guys do well. I think that's what we can take away from it. So, no, it's fun to watch. People should go out and watch Champions Tour golf because the level of play, how good it is, I think I always say this, like you go play the tees you guys play from 6,800 yards and go shoot 15 under par in 3 rounds and come back to me and let me know how that goes for you. That's
right.
how good the play is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still great golf. Speaking of great golfers, I think this story, I love your feedback on this one. Anthony Kim coming back from, not even the oblivion, like from the poker room, I guess.
All right.
Take on that, and then from being away a little bit, like how do you then go from nowhere for 12 years to trying to beat DJ? Like, how, my God, how do you transition back into pro level golf? Let's assume he's still got talent, but how do you see that playing out?
It's going to be interesting. I've only seen Anthony one time since he left, which was about the same time I started playing the Champions Tour anyway. And it was at the Madison Club in Palm Springs, and he was having breakfast, and he had his hoodie on, and he never took it off. He had it cinched up like it was 20 degrees in the dining room. I just thought it was the weirdest thing ever. But anyway, what's weird about the last 12 years with him being gone is you haven't even really heard of him playing any, just like at home or recreational, or stories like, oh yeah, I played with Anthony Kim today and he shot 62. Or
Right.
you haven't heard anything. I don't know what he's been doing. Whether he's been playing poker at the Bellagio or what he's been doing. So, it'll be interesting. It's a good story. He was obviously a great player, and just kind of a different character, that's for sure. But we'll see. I think he'll play okay. Probably not great most of the year. I don't think he's anywhere good enough to deal with Rom and DJ and Bryson and those guys. So, but we'll see. It'll be fun to watch. Well, having said that, I don't watch live. I didn't mean it that way, but I will pay attention to what he shoots. That's about it.
It's an interesting human story, right? Because very few guys, like we were talking about Duvall again, when he stepped away and went in the broadcast booth, and then he turns 50 and goes back in it, it's not like all of a sudden he just turned it back on and won 3 times. And I think like DeMarco's done the same thing, right? Like really good players on the PGA Tour. You take that 5, 6, 7 years off, and why do you think that is so hard to? Because they have talent and they have experience and they've proven themselves. Why is it so hard to then become elite again?
Yeah, isn't that amazing? The way that works with DeMarco had, probably 6 or 7 years from when he last played good on tour until he turned 50, and I'd heard he was in great shape and he's working out, and then he just didn't play well at all for, he's had some good tournaments and a few chances to win for sure, but, he hasn't won yet. Justin Leonard's played well, but he hasn't won yet. He spent quite a bit of time in the booth. Nota Begay's playing now, but when he started playing last year, it was terrible. Duvall, same thing. It's just I don't know. I think you just get out of the competitive playing mode. It takes a little bit to figure it back out. It's almost like relearning, how to play. And I get it because I'm kind of the same way right now, even though I've only been out because of injuries, but I still have to, I told Brenda this, I still have to figure out how to bring my Tequesta Country Club game, in Jupiter, Florida, back out to the tour because I play well at home, and I didn't play great in Naples. So, that's kind of the whole mystery. And the same goes with those guys.
Because it's not nerves or anything. I mean, right? I mean, you've dealt with it's like, why does it not, just like you guys been out there for so long, can just flip the switch. And I don't think Anthony Kim's going to be able to do it either. Like, it's such an interesting thing to look at of like, why does the golf with the boys at home at Tequesta, where you're shooting 66, not just go to Naples and shoot the same thing? What is that little tiny nuance? And I've talked to a bunch of players about it. They call it, it's like you have to work yourself into, I know it sounds kind of crazy because you can still play competitive golf at home, but like tournament professional golf, like I mentioned earlier. It's like, right. I always find it fascinating, though. Why is that a thing?
Right. It's a mystery. And the 3 rounds that I shot before I left for Naples, I shot 66, 68, 68 on some pretty good golf courses. And then I opened up with a 76. And I looked at Brendan and I said, how can I lose 8 to 10 shots a round? Driving over to Naples, it's the same guy playing golf. It's in the brain for sure, but it's also just one of those things you gotta just get over the hump again. I've always said pro golf is such a fine line. There's so many great players that can't quite get over the hump, and it's almost like the guys that I mentioned before. That took time off or been in the booth, they got to figure out how to get over the hump again. And I'll be 64 in a few months. And, will I get over the hump again? Who knows? I'll shoot some good rounds, but, can I win again? I'm not Bernhard Langer. I know that. So, we'll see. But I'm going to keep trying.
I was going to ask you too on like what's going on with golf and everything from like 1,000 feet in the air, because this idea of like a world tour of was around in the 90s when you were on the PGA Tour and just from the outside looking in, like, do you think there's going to be a merger? I know it's just a guess. I know you don't have any inside information, but how?
Right.
Let me ask: if in a perfect world, how do you see this potentially coming together? And do you think it'd be an interesting product if everyone can come to an agreement? Because it sounds like between what Rory's saying and some of the other players, there's a little bit more of a pathway to potentially, and I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but some version of a world tour, right, where everything feeds up to these 12 events or whatever events there are, and it travels the world, and those top 80 players, whatever it is, that's the elite of the elite, and everyone's going to want to get there from a money standpoint, prestige. Do you see it? Can you see a little bit more of a pathway of this working out, and how would you potentially see it from your perspective?
I do a lot more now than I did last year or the year before when all this kind of came about. It kind of seemed like a few years ago when guys left, like that was it. They were never going to play the PGA Tour again. Boom, goodbye, you're gone. But now as time's gone on and Rahm's gone and who knows what Rory's going to do. And it just seems to me that these guys must have some sort of inside info that we're all going to be back together playing together at some point anyway. So why not take, all this money and forget about the PGA Tour for whatever it is, 2 years, 3 years, however long it takes. They're all still young enough. And I hope so for the sake of golf. I've said it many times. I'm not a live golf fan, but I don't blame any of these guys one bit for taking all that money. And the way it looks, hopefully they can fill their pockets up very nicely, and then in a few years it'll all kind of come together and merge together and be one big happy tour again. Would make the most sense to me. But yeah, it's been a strange couple of years with that tour for sure.
I think it could be interesting, to bring a big event to Australia. I mean, and go to Hong Kong. And I think the relegation of guys on that borderline of going up or down could be really, there's a story to tell in that. I think that'd be the end of the year of oh man, is he going to get up to that next level? Is this guy going down with, 9 holes to go? That could be exciting. Almost like, an informal tour school, pressure on that final round. For the elite players, a lot of travel would have to happen, but the payday would be, I'm guessing, Calcavecchia would be unbelievable. What the purse prizes would be if that all came together of what that world tour, let's call it for lack of a better word, would look like. Yeah,
it would be cool if they're all down there playing Royal Melbourne or Kingston Heath or something in Australia, or go to Hong Kong or go to wherever. You can get anywhere in 24 hours nowadays pretty much, so it's a lot of travel, but for what they're going to be playing for, it's well worth the trip. So that would be cool to see for sure.
And I think you'd have to bring it around the world. You're right. It's going to have to be in South America, China. I mean, for that to work and for the money behind it, it's going to literally have to be a world tour. Of course, you'd have some events in the States, but that's the only way I see, almost like Formula One, where it's on that world circuit, and then but like I said, what would first prize be? $7-8 million for a win? I mean, probably.
Yeah,
right? You're talking. Yeah, it would be insane. Which would be fun to watch. Guys coming down and playing for $8 million for a 4-day tournament. I hope they get it worked out. I really do. I think it would be because the majors are going to get all messed up. I mean, Taylor Gooch should probably be at the Masters realistically from the play. I mean, they're going to have to figure this out because otherwise you're going to have.
Sure he should, and I know he's better. He's not in the Masters, but he won 3 times on the Live Tour. Who cares? World rankings and the shitter. Who cares? He's Taylor Gooch. So I don't know.
I'm using that as an example of if it kept spreading off, right? Are you eventually going to lose some players that realistically if there was world rankings counting, and if it's Live Golf or whatever it is, but it's Live Golf right now, are the majors potentially not getting the best possible field? And do they feel pressure to fix that somehow on their own? I'd rather see this whole thing come together before that happened.
Yeah, that's true. And I said the same thing about the Ryder Cup last year. you want the best players on both teams, whether they're on live or not. And, DJ should have been there. Bryson should have been there. I don't know about Patrick Reed, but, there was, they picked Brooks because he won the PGA, and they said, you got to pick Brooks. So, why Zach picked him. But, I think you got to have the best players for that event from both sides, no matter where they're playing golf. And same with the majors. Taylor's not in the Masters, and I know there's 4 or 5 or 6 other guys that are, great players that probably should be in the Masters as well. But, that tournament's always had historically the weakest field of all the majors, because it's normally around 80 or 90 players, and 8 of them are amateurs, and, 8 of them were past champions. I mean, there's literally, and there's going to be another 20 guys that are just going to play bad that week. You got like 40 guys to beat, is I think what the great players think. Jack always thought, or Tiger always thought, or Phil, whoever. Guys have won a lot of Masters, and they say it's the easiest major to win because of that. Well, I don't know about that, but it's definitely a good point where you want the best players in the majors for sure.
But I'm going to reverse my own argument. It wasn't an argument, but I mean, like, Taylor Gooch knew what he signed up for, and he made $33 million or whatever it is last year. So part of that is like, dude, you might not get in the majors, but you made $30 million. You signed that deal knowing there was not going to be world ranking points. Like, you can't come and complain now. I'm right. So yeah, it's sort of like you took that deal. So I don't know what to tell you.
I agree. Yeah, exactly. He's got more money than he ever dreamed of having, and so he's not in the Masters. He's sitting at home and watching on TV.
Right.
Golf tournament. It's a great golf tournament, but it's not the end of the world. And when he signed that deal, he knew what he was doing, and they all did.
Yes.
They all knew what they were doing.
They all did.
They all got a lot. And
You can't go back now and say, "Oh, woe to me," right?
Well,
I mean,
why can't I play in the Masters? You're screwing me. No, that's that. And the official world golf ranking. I mean, should the live guys be getting points? I don't know. That's a whole other argument I don't understand. But obviously, DJ's is top, probably 5 player in the world, right? And what's his world ranking slip down to now?
I don't even know, 100 or something like that.
Yeah, right? So, that's dumb. But, but he's, as a, past Masters champion, he'll always be in the Masters. But there will be a time when these guys' exemptions will run out. So, in 3 or 4 years, what happens when, Patrick Reed or whatever, his 5-year Masters win runs out and he's not in any majors, or Bryson or even Dustin or whoever. So, unless it all comes together, it could be really weird, but not good. Like I said, you want the best players and all the.
You want the best.
But they got to figure something out.
You brought up the Ryder Cup. This was going to bring something I was going to bring up to you in that situation of was Zach Johnson essentially in a no-win situation, in the sense of, if the politics of taking live guys, he's going to have his brethren on the PGA Tour pissed. If that fails, he's like, I don't know how he was going to get out of that situation, right? Because if it didn't work, no matter which way he went, he's going to be vilified.
Yeah.
You're doomed from the start.
Yeah, and I've known Zach forever. I mean, he's one of the nicest guys on the planet. But no matter what happened, and the way the course was set up, Luke Donald did a great job with all that. All you got to do is throw a foot deep rough, and we're in trouble. But I think our next Ryder Cup or down the road, we should play an 8,500-yard course with no rough and 80-yard wide fairways, and see what happens.
Well, and that was my other thing I was going to bring up, right? Like, do we eventually just not let the team set this thing up? Because to your point, it's exactly what I would do if I was Luke Donald. It worked at, was 2 parts of this. It worked at France too, right? Where, Same thing. So then here's a weird one for you. Do you start picking your American team literally different, knowing this, if they're not going to switch the course setup and just let somebody neutral do it, whoever, the R&A and the U.S., would be the PGA and the European Tour, right? They come to an agreement where it's more neutral. But if that doesn't happen, do you have to start making picks based on not gut or team or I want my boy there, but I don't know, take a modern day Brian Gay, and are you better off to have a bunch of Brian Harmons going into Europe who hit it long enough and really accurate? They're not going to overpower anything, but the golf course, you know what you're going to get ahead of time. Do these captains have to, or the committees have to start thinking, although, DJ is a better player, for example, let's say he was on the PGA Tour still, this doesn't set up great for him, and I have the mathematics and the stats backing this up, so I don't give a shit about the chemistry because they play together. It's just going to be like a computer saying, these two guys play together if the course looks like this. Go play.
It might kind of lean that direction. Like, I don't know how long they're going to have the 6 qualifiers and then 6 captain's picks type thing. I think 6 is too many because it's not really fair to the guy who finishes 7th if he doesn't get picked. But at any rate, but yeah, next time we go over to Europe, I'm not sure where the Ryder. That place in Ireland, I think. I forget the name.
But you know what's coming. It's going to be a bowling alley.
Yeah, it's going to be tight with deep rough. So what do? We have our 6 qualifiers, and then what do? Go down the stats and find the next 6 straightest drivers, no matter who they are. Not a bad idea, right?
That's what I'm literally starting to think, Calc, because I don't think, like, when you were playing the course setups, no one talked about how much different it is or was. And now every captain uses it to an advantage. And, same with us at Hazeltine, when they just, you get all bombers and you have no rough and you put the pins in the middle of the green and our guys go lower.
Right.
I don't like it because it's like you can almost just predict the outcome beforehand. And then, but I'll tell you what, if somebody, which, anointed me captain and I got to go pick a team, I would really, it's going to be outside the box of a thought, and thank God I'll never be in this position to have to do it, but I would literally have a computer genius pick me out, if I get 5 or 6 picks, to your point, who a modern day Brian Gay, putts it great, hits it straight, always in play. Give me 5, who's the best 5? And then you may have to tell the guys, like, you're just playing with this player today. I don't know what to tell you. I don't want the input. The algorithm says X.
Right.
And, it would kind of take the wind out of the Ryder Cup a little bit. But I'm telling you what, if my job was to win, I sure as shit would think about doing it that way.
Yeah, I agree. Right?
Yeah, I hope they stop this. I think it'd be better for the event if they just make it like a normal event, whatever that is, right? Everyone, I'm sure the guys setting the golf courses up know what I'm talking about, where it's not so extreme on our side and so extreme on their side.
Yeah,
I think it'd be better for the matches. So I know it's interesting. And the other thing I was going to ask you too, like, how much does the captain really make that much of a difference? Or, like, I can't imagine I would need to motivate you to play. Like, you're a professional golfer. It's what you do for a living. You don't like losing at anything. Like, or could a captain literally just say, you and X player, go out and play. You don't need me to coach you up. You guys know what you're doing. That's why you're on this team. Go play.
Yeah. I've said that for a long time. And Luke Donald's about the quietest, calmest guy you could ever meet. I mean, you see him getting fired up in the locker room, like a football coach screaming at his guys, let's go at the top of his lungs. No. These guys are all professional golfers. They know how to play golf. It's the Ryder Cup. Trust me, they're fired up. Jack wasn't rah in 87. Raymond in 89. Raymond was a little bit more fiery, but he says, okay, Cal, you're going to go play with Ken Green an alternate shot, go get a point, whatever. And then, we're fired up. We're going to go do it. So, these guys know what they're doing out there. It's just, it's not, you can't blame a captain for, Zach was in a tough spot, but, he's going to get criticized with his pairings, or he's going to get criticized for this or that. If they don't win, it's his fault. He was a bad leader. He the team wasn't together. They didn't hang out in the team room. That's all a bunch of crap.
It has to be, right? Like, because like you said, I think the captains in the Ryder Cup, at least of recent times, this is just as a golf fan looking at it, they're over criticized and blamed when they lose. Like they're the worst leader, like exactly decision ever. And if you win, Thomas Bjorn should be going up for a Nobel laureate prize.
Right.
And I don't think it's quite the players still have to play.
Right.
Like I truly think you could give me a stat guy, and I watch enough golf where I would be like, you guys are going to go play. And I would hope they would play because they're pros and it's the Ryder Cup. Right? Like it's strange to me how much the captaincy has turned in. I think when you probably first started, the captaincy wasn't as big of a thing as it is now, right? Or that pressure on the captains.
No, I mean, Dave Stockton was a great captain. They were all great captains. Jack obviously was great. Raymond was amazing. But, just because they're great guys, we've known them forever. And Curtis was fantastic at the Belfry in '02. So my four captains were awesome, but it wasn't their fault. We won, lost, tied, or whatever. It was our fault. At the Belfry in '89, 5 of us hit in the water in 18, including me. And we ended up tying. It was one of the most. It was as bad as Medina when we somehow didn't win that one. Probably 10 years ago already.
Yeah,
but yeah,
wow.
we were all crying. We were stunned. It looked like we couldn't possibly lose, and we ended up tying, which they kept the cup. So that's got nothing to do with Raymond Floyd. Trust me. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said. I think it's going to be very interesting going forward, and like I said, boy, the captaincy is a high. It's a high risk situation where I don't ever remember it being like that, where you're just going to get killed if you lose, and if you win, like I said, you're anointed. It's still just golf. It's
Luke Donald's a European hero now. He's like,
yes,
yeah, he's probably going to be Sir Luke Donald in no time.
Yeah, and Zach, people are giving him shit at still in yeah, like it's dude, the guy's not hitting golf shots. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, the fans were roughing him up in Phoenix. Jesus.
Right. He didn't hit a shot.
But, yeah, he didn't hit a shot. He tried his best.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's interesting for your take on it, because you've been inside of that. And like I said, it sounds like you're saying kind of like the players have to hit the golf shots. And to the point, you don't need to be motivated. You're playing in the goddamn Ryder Cup. Like, you should be at your best, ready to go. It's not on the captain. So, next one's going to be interesting, but I agree with you. It's going to be 8,500 yards, no rough, and get our bombers out there, and we'll probably win by 5 or 6 points. And here we go again.
Yeah, Bethpage is going to be, that could be a little crazy.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's coming the other direction. Going to ask you on the Florida swing. And let me know your thoughts on this, but as a Midwest guy, I always thought, all right, PGA Tour fan, now the season started. We got the Florida swing. Did you as a player, and I know you like playing in Florida growing up and stuff, did you kind of feel that, did you really put an emphasis on this start to Augusta, getting ready for the Honda and getting ready for these tournaments and starting to prime up for the season?
No, that wasn't a thing back in my era. Like the season starts at Doral, back when we used to play at Doral, or once the Florida swing starts, it's the build up to the Masters. I never thought that way. I enjoyed playing the West Coast tournaments, especially Phoenix, the Hope. Wasn't a huge fan. Well, totally not a fan of Torrey Pines, but I had some good tournaments there. I played there anyway, and I always enjoyed going up to Pebble, blah blah blah. So I always played a lot of golf in November and December, and I was kind of anxious to go play. So. And then once we got to Florida, I was super excited because I loved Doral back in the early days before it got all messed up, and of course the Honda in my neck of the woods here. So, those were great tournaments, and the Players, I nearly won that one. Jody Mudd edged me out in '91, I think. So love playing in Florida, but the Masters. And I didn't think about wanting to play the week before or not. That wasn't a deal then either. Now it's like, oh, yeah, guys want to play the week before the Masters, so they're tournament ready. I mean, that's a bunch of crap. Phil always said that. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're tournament ready. Trust me, when you get to Augusta. It's like the Ryder Cup. If you're not fired up to play in the Masters, there's something wrong with it. I never thought that way about the Florida swing. It's the build up to the Masters.
You got out of the gate, played West Coast, and just kept it rolling. If it was rolling, it was rolling. There was no
right.
Yeah, like how it is now, where it's segmented off, and they got the regimen. If you felt that you were on a heater and you're playing good, you're going to keep playing. There was no real full game plan that this is exactly how you do it each year.
And I never went to Augusta, on my private plane that I never had, a month early to play 2 days, like Tiger and Phil and all these guys do now. They played there 100 times. They know the course. I rolled in there Monday. I played 18 Tuesday, and usually 9 on Wednesday. Played the par 3 and teed it up and did my best.
Prep work for the players. Like I said, I know you came close to winning it. A lot of guys I talk to love that golf course. What's the key for these guys to play well there? Because it's you get interesting champions. You get guys who bomb it, and then you get the Fred Funks of the world who are precise and kind of everywhere in between. So it's, from a fan standpoint, it's a very interesting tournament that it's not really, one player seems to have a huge advantage there.
I had a little bit of a love-hate relationship with the Players Championship and the TPC there. I had really good tournaments, and I had some really bad tournaments. My success at 17 was pretty good. I think I only hit it in the water twice there my entire career, so that was good. But as you just said, that's one of the greatest things about that tournament and that golf course is anybody can win it. Literally anybody in the entire field, if they play well, keep it out of the water, keep it in play, make enough putts, hit enough good iron shots, and think their way around that course, anybody can win it. And that's probably the greatest thing about that golf course and that tournament is it favors no one, as you just said.
Is it one? And it's Pete Dye, so I'm guessing that's one where you were on your toes for 18 holes. Right? There's no sort of slap it out there hole. It's fine. I'm going to have a breather here, right? At least when I play Pete Dye, he gets in my head of angle seems strange, and I'm never totally comfortable off the tee. I think of any other designer, he has, Pete Dye. I got to play that golf course a few times to see the lines of what he's designing. I struggle on those golf courses a little bit, but it might just be me. But I'm always a little uncomfortable on a Pete Dye golf course.
Yeah, you're not the only one. That was his whole thing, is he wanted to make you feel uncomfortable on the tee box, even though you knew there was plenty of fairway out there. It was still kind of either a strange look or didn't suit your eye. There's several tee shots at the TPC in Jacksonville where two is the worst driving hole in the world for me. If you hit a fade, I tried to hook drivers, I tried to hook 3-woods, I tried to hit a fade over the trees, I tried everything. And then for the hookers, number 5 is a terrible look because you don't want to start it out over the water, right, and try to hook it back to the fairway. And then, back in my day, the left rough was always about a foot deep. So there are 14s and other holes. You don't know how to hit a fade or a hook off that tee, or just try to hit it straight or steer it out there or whatever. So there's a bunch of holes like that where it's uncomfortable for nearly everybody in the field. And again, that's kind of what makes it such a good course, I think.
It's interesting for the fans to watch, right? Because you're like, how is this player's playing this bad this week? But if you know Pete Dye golf courses, right, it just doesn't take much. If you're just off a tad, you can shoot a 75 out there probably for your guys at your level you're at in a millisecond, right? And you also can shoot a 65.
Yeah,
but if the
wind kicks up and it's swirling through those trees, it's going all over the place. And then the entire round, no matter whether you start on 10 or 1, you still know you got to play 17 and 18. So that's also always in the back of your mind. Is you could be rolling into 17, 4 or 5 under for the day, and shoot even par. Play the last 2 holes about 5 over. So and that's happened numerous times, as we've all seen. So it's my second favorite tournament to watch, other than the Masters, of course. I love watching the Masters, but I also love watching the Players because of 17.
Well, the other big one this year, Royal Troon. You've had a little success there. The Open out there this year. If you were giving advice to a young touring pro, he said, "Kelk, I want to hold the claret jug. What do I need to do on this golf course? What advice would you have? And what makes it? I mean, it's one of the best golf courses in the world. But from your eyes, what makes it just, truly one of the best links experiences a golfer can have?"
It really is. There's just no bad holes there. I honestly love every hole in that course, and there's very few courses that I've ever played that I can say that. And again, my buddy Eric Cole, somebody has convinced him that it's a faders course, and I said that's not true. There's no trees out there. You can hit it any direction you want. In fact, there's a couple holes where it helps to hit a draw off the tee, which Eric hits. So I said it's not a faders course. It's just a great course. You got to keep it out of the bunkers like most open courses, and and see what the weather gives you. If you get on the good side of it or the bad side of it, or most of the time the front nine's downwind there and the back nine's a beast back into the wind. You'll see guys shooting 32, 42 all the time there. But Monday when I first saw the course in 1989, I knew I loved it. I was playing well, and it was a great week.
Oh yeah, and you got the goods to prove it, right? Every now and then you got to look over and look at that thing and go, yeah, that one's mine.
I look at it every day. It's sitting right next to my TV. So in other words, yeah, I see it every day. It needs a little polish work right now, but I'll get it shined up, and I look at it every day.
Even after all these years, it's still got to be special, right? Every now and then when you give it a glance and you're like, yeah, that's as good as it gets, right? Like that's as good as.
Every day I think about it because of that reminder, because I look at it all the time. So I'm like,
I don't blame you.
And a lot of times I'm like, wow, I can't believe I won that thing, and it's just like the most sought after, trophy, I think, in pro golf. Honestly, I think if you polled every single player in professional golf, which tournament they'd most like to win, and I'm almost certain, even Americans before the U.S. Open would say the Open Championship.
Oh, I agree with you. If you could give me one, I would take I'd take an Open over a Masters.
Yeah. You get players from all over the world. You get the conditions, the atmosphere, the golf courses, the fans, the knowledge, just the whole thing is just really, really unique. And I knew it was my favorite tournament the first year I played in it, 1987 at Muirfield. I think I finished 12th, and I thought, man, this was the coolest tournament I ever played in. And even if I hadn't won it 2 years later, I would still told you that after playing in 32 of them, I think, or 31, I'm not sure. But yeah, I played a lot of them, so it was fun.
Well, I got the experience as close as I'll ever get last year. Zach Fisher won the Argentine Open, who plays sub 70 clubs, got into the Open Championship from that win. So I went over there and got to walk inside the ropes with him on, like a Wednesday practice round, and I'm walking up 18th, and I'm thinking, and it's packed on a practice round, right?
Yeah.
I'm walking with the guys, and I'm like thinking to myself, I can't imagine what this feeling must be like, with a 3-shot lead like Brian had. Someone's going to walk up that fairway, and that crowd and that backdrop and that scoreboard, it was like magical for me just to be inside the ropes, let alone playing in the tournament, let alone like you've won it and like with what that feeling must be like. Obviously, yours was in a playoff, and it wasn't just an easy walk, and you had to go, you had to play some golf still. But man, Kelk, what a backdrop, right? Like it's just. I can't put there's something so special about it. And it's the fans, and you can get close to the players, and then the course, and then just the backdrop of the thing. It kind of hits you like, this is the World's Championship right here. right? Like it's got a vibe like anything else I've never seen anything like of being around golf tournaments. It was truly that special, just for me being a fan.
Yeah, I think, and to sum that up, a friend of mine from Arizona caddied for me at Royal Witham to St. Anne's. I think it was the year Lehman won. Not entirely sure. Was that 91 or 91? I think 95. I don't know. Whatever year it was, I think I bogeyed 15 and 17, but I was still like in the top 15. So, I was still having a good tournament. And my buddy, we tee off an 18, and we get out there. I hit my second shot, and my buddy says, "Look, I know you're pissed off right now, but this is without a doubt the coolest moment of my life." He said that to me. He said, "I'll never forget this as long as I live. This is the greatest experience I've ever seen. Just walking up, in the last 4 or 5 groups at the Open with the stands packed." So yeah, I remember that, and I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. It is pretty cool, isn't it?"
Well, and also for you being an ex-champion, right, as you know, there is something special those fans have. I noticed that when I was there. If you are an Open champion,
oh yeah,
the reception you got in a practice round was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, those fans know it, right? There is a certain amount of admiration and respect when an Open champion is at a tee box, right? It was crazy, like, how, Daly, I was followed Daly for a little bit, and, like, the respect, I mean, standing ovation as he gets to the tee. This is a practice round, but he's a former Open champion, right? Like, there is that level of respect. I think when you raise that claret jug. I mean, like I said, I'm sure for your buddy caddying too, there's something a little extra special of you walking up that fairway as a former champion too, of what you feel from the crowd.
Oh, every year, no doubt. It's been cool. I've gotten just amazing treatment over there from the fans, and autographs, and and so many people say, "Oh, I was there at Troon in '89," and I'm like, "Really? You're not that old?" And he goes, "Yeah, I was like 6, but I remember it."
Yeah,
It's all kinds. Still to this day in Champions Tour Pro-Ams, so I'll play with a guy or somebody to come up to me and says, "I was there in '89 on Sunday when you won at Troon." And I'm like, "Wow, that's cool." So yeah, I still look at it all the time. So it's a great reminder.
Well deserved, sir. Well, I appreciate it as always. I always love the insights, kind of the start of the year. We've definitely had a lot of talk about the last couple of years of, where this great game is going with all the craziness. But I certainly appreciate the conversation. So thank you so much, Calc. Look forward to watching on the Champions Tour, being healthy this year, too. We'll keep our eye out on it and play well.
All right, Jason. Thanks, bud. Anytime.